This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games!
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby! We ain't done yet! We ain't done yet! You like that? You like that? I like that!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I'm Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
Ruckus and The Menace.
And this is episode number 103 of our awesome sports podcast, as we will be talking about our log and the starting lineup and our future content updates. Our Clint Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, the ugly. The high heat, where we go over the NHL and the Euro stuff. The Omaha of the College World Series. Not like the Peyton Manning Omaha, but kind of close, kind of similar. And then our color commentary, where we talk about our divisional updates for the AL and NL. And this week we're doing the Central Division for both the AL and NL. And then we'll get to our stud and dud. Spennis, fire away.
Well, the first major thing that I definitely want to speak on coming up is that we also will have a new Netflix doc coming out here very, very soon called Receiver. Yeah, how they did quarterback last year where they had the 3 quarterbacks. Now they have 5 different receivers this year doing one. And I'm sure that everyone is aware of who the receivers are, right?
Yep.
The receivers doing this are Davante Adams, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and one of the founders at Tight End University, George Kittle. Is there anything in that you are currently looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to potentially the storylines for all the characters, like, because last year, or it feels like last year, but it probably could have been more years than that.
Last year was Kirk Cousins.
I feel like, because there was like 4 guys, right? There was Mariota, Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and
just 3.
It was
3.
Okay.
It was just
3. Yeah, it
three.
was 3. Sorry. But yeah, there was just 3 quarterbacks, but they did also have like different storylines with Josh Allen and a few others, but it was more like short like appearances as bad guys or foes. But like now you're almost doubling the amount of cast that is in this one. I think it'll be an interesting one, because the thing is with the quarterback, it was more of they were going in the ins and outs of how they recover from injuries or recover from the week prior, and it seems like there might not be as much to go through with the players this time around, since it's mainly receivers. It's not like the main brain operation.
Not really, because I think of the receivers that they selected. Realize Justin Jefferson dealt with a major injury last year. Davante Adams dealt with some severe underperformance. Kittle and Deebo Samuel were Super Bowl losers. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, they ended up getting a Lion as part of that epic Lions run. So I think they've got themselves a pretty good set of 5.
Right. I'm not saying that it's insignificant. I'm just saying it might not be as it might be a longer series. Who knows? Because they gotta figure out how to mesh that all together. I think it took them like 8 episodes for quarterback, but you had 3 guys, whereas this is 5. So do you double the amount of episodes? Do you make them longer? How do you fit in all the stuff that you want to fit in a set period of time?
That is true. However, I am definitely looking forward to more of the life of George Kittle. Because There's just something about tight ends from the University of Iowa that they are just absolutely personable and great personalities. Because even Hawkinson is that. Even TJ Hawkinson has that. And George Kittle is definitely a colorful personality. And someone that is going to bring headlines for the show. Like, for me, quarterback made me have a more, like, as if I didn't already have a great respect for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had even more so of a respect for me after watching quarterback.
I think he was my second favorite. Obviously, Mahomes was my first, but I didn't like Mariota all that much.
Well, Mariota, the hard part about Mariota's, I love the concept of Mariota in the West Coast, but I think for me, Mariota's just was not as believable.
His was just it just seemed pathetic. Because, yeah, he dealt with adversity when it came to being benched by the Titans in 2019 and then being picked up by the Raiders as a backup.
Oh, he was actually a Falcon in this.
Yeah, I know, but in his story, he talks about being a Titan and then becoming a Raider and then becoming a Falcon after that. And now he was a Eagle, and now I think he is going somewhere else.
He is now the backup quarterback for the Washington Commanders.
There you go. You heard it here first from Mr. Spennis.
Yeah, he is currently in Washington. But the reason why it makes me very, very excited for George Kittle, and I'm not saying this because of race, I'm saying this because Kittle is one of those people that if I ended up like seeing him out and about, it would be super cool just simply because of I really like him. Like, he really does look incredibly likable.
It reminds me of Steve Buscemi if he was buff and played football.
Yeah, like he's a big WWE fan. He's a fan of pro wrestling. He's a fan of he's kind of that fun, like he looks like a fun uncle, if that's a good way to describe it.
For sure.
But with that digression aside, I think we go straight into the transaction log and a somber note as we...
Third week in a row, too. Good lord.
I mean, they always say the death comes in threes. And this was a very unfortunate third. As we now lose the Say Hey kid. As Willie Mays passes away.
And it's crazy that it happened, like, on the same week that the Rickwood game happened, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but the beautiful irony is that they already had a storyline prepared for him for the Negro Leagues and in MLB The Show and everything else, too, that also set itself off. But I will never forget seeing the videos, like seeing the clips of Willie Mays making the catch over the shoulder. And
at the Polo Grounds.
Yeah, at the Polo Grounds. Yeah, that catch, he hit 660 home runs. Like, just very, very, like, Willie Mays is an icon in terms of baseball. An icon before the time that I started watching or even knowing of anything of baseball. But Willie Mays is one of those faces that you don't know baseball if you hadn't heard of anything about Willie Mays. Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. The IQ was definitely not as high if you didn't know anything about Koufax. even Carl Yastrzemski for Red Sox fans. But Willie Mays is one of those notable names that if you didn't know anything or knew, or if you had lived under a rock, if you didn't know who Willie Mays was and you were a fan of baseball.
All right, let's move on to another note.
Yep. Copa America has kicked off earlier this week. The U.S. won their first match in group play against Bolivia. We will mention more about Copa America next week, as they are in group stages right now and still very, very early along. Another soccer tournament started a little sooner in Europe, which we will speak about later. But the bigger breaking news of yesterday was that the Three from The Old Man and the Three was hired to be the Lakers head coach. JJ Redick, who has never coached in the NBA in his life, though a former player, has been hired to become the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
They had the nuts to give him a 4-year deal, thinking that he was going to turn their team around. I don't know if it's going to happen. Obviously not overnight, but I think that this is going to be a rough transition, just based off of either the sheer luck of being a former player now coach, and or just straight up like, will he make the culture better in the Lakers locker room?
Also a nearly 40-year-old LeBron James.
Yeah, especially that, because I think at one point, or there were many times that Redick and LeBron faced off. So who knows if LeBron's like telling him like, "Hey, I'm bigger than you and better than you. What are you gonna say about that, man?" Like, do you think that LeBron's gonna intimidate him? Probably, but let's see how this pans out. But I just don't see it being in a positive manner at the beginning. That's all I say. That's all I'm gonna say about
Former
that.
NBA players historically as head coaches. Ultimately, the track record has led to good success. There is only one former player that has turned that into good head coaching success and even good executive success. Well, granted, two if you include a finals appearance for Larry Bird. But really, the one that ultimately has done it on all three facets, other than Jerry West, has done it in at least two, from what I know of. But the one that's really done it in all three has been Pat Riley. Pat Riley was a player, Pat Riley was a coach, and Pat Riley is an executive. So having players that kind of can do the head coach thing, or the former players becoming head coaches, it's been a mixed bag. But more often than not, former players can have success with the right team. Do I think JJ Redick has the right team for this to possibly work out? My answer to that is no.
To think, here's another thought too. Former NBA player Luke Walton was the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers when LeBron decided to sign with the Lakers back in 2019, 2020.
Something like that.
And that did not work out. And then Frank Vogel came into the mix, and they won a championship during the bubble year. And then after that, it kind of just went up and down, but they never really like stabilized. But
Yeah,
they did. I mean, they did win during the shuttlecock tournament earlier in the season.
Yeah, but you have players, but then you also have former players who have had great success. Doc Rivers, former player. Phil Jackson, former player. And Phil Jackson is probably one of the most decorated head coaches, purely head coaches, in the NBA.
Didn't Greg Popovich also play?
I can't remember if Popovich was an NBA player or not. I know that Popovich was a majorly a
Navy player,
like
I
an
think.
exec, but no, Popovich never made the NBA. He actually was he was at AFA as a guard. But then right after that he became an assistant at Air Force at AFA, then went to a couple of smaller things, was an assistant at was an assistant Jayhawk, then got the Spurs assistant, Golden State, and then has been the coach of the Spurs since 1996. So he's had some coaching. He's had a little bit of coaching bits here and there, but it mostly was at the college level that he did a good amount of his coaching and then moved up the NBA ranks. So no, Popovich was not a former player.
Thing.
Joe Mazzulla, who just won the championship, was also not a former NBA player. So really, as far as levels of basketball, it's not always the former NBA players that can win you NBA championships. It's not necessarily that way, but sometimes it can help. That's just the simplest way that I can say it.
Yeah.
I think JJ Redick is going to be full of challenges, especially dealing with a couple of major superstars on his team right out the gate.
I agree.
And now that we've kind of got through a few of our major headlines here, recordings and uploads for our March to October MLB The Show runs are complete. We do not have any more recording to do on those. Everything is going to be set, and all episodes will be done by Labor Day as far as release. So once Labor Day comes around, there will be no more March to October episodes. In August, I will have my college football series beginning. I'll have 2 series beginning. And then on September 5th, we will have the first kickoff of the Madden Super Bowl races once again. Everything here is still TBD. Even though we know, we're not going to tell you.
Well, maybe one little snippet. Just kidding. We're not doing that.
Well, if you want to give a small little snippet on something, go right ahead.
All right. I'll give my little snippet. Duh, Bears.
I wasn't. I knew we were kind of torn between 2 teams for you at around that point, but I think you have officially announced that you are taking our theme this year for is actually going to be rookie quarterbacks. In taking a rookie quarterback to the Super Bowl and the Promised Land. And I'll give mine up here. I actually am taking my own team. Ruckus did his own for this past March to October. So for me, for the Super Bowl race, just because I think it's going to be a little bit tougher, I am actually going to take my own team. And I am taking the Washington Commanders. Quite a fun little situation there, as I'll have pretty much everything starting anew.
Yep.
Dan Quinn with new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new owner, new front office, just a little bit of everything. But hopefully we do not run into the same old problems. And plus, I have to deal with Dallas and Philadelphia twice. Get off me.
See what happens.
So now we get into our Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Roll that beautiful tumbleweed footage.
All right now. What is good in sports this week? I will say it. The MLB paid tribute to the 1950s with old-timey broadcast transitions with commentary from Joe Davis and John Smoltz of Fox Sports. This was for the Rickwood game between the Cardinals and Giants to commemorate the late Willie Mays. And there is actually a video on the MLB YouTube channel, and if you search Rickwood in your search, like the Rickwood game, god dang, that's a tongue twister for some reason for me. The Rickwood game, if you look it up on YouTube, it should show you the old timey thing. They did like a whole inning based off of like how in the times before you had a floating scoreboard all the time on the TV, it was pretty much just like the name of the player, and the whole idea behind old timey television was they were trying to get people to get glued to the screen. So they went off of curiosity versus just, oh, let's just look at the score really quick. They're like, okay, I want to know the score, but I gotta like actually pay attention and watch it.
Yeah. And they also, I believe that Rickwood game also had an all African American umpiring crew as well, which was notable in its regard as well. And I think that's a massive degree of respect too, that they played right into that Rickwood feel of the Negro Leagues, and they've done so much to benefit that as well. And I am very hopeful that this brings more kids of that heritage into playing baseball.
I also thought it was just cool how they implemented some things. It felt reminiscent to the Field of Dreams in a sense with that experience. Like they had no outfield for the as far as the center outfield. They had the third and right or third and first base side for seating, pretty much, kind of like you had in the Field of Dreams, but it was bigger. Obviously, it was an actual official stadium that's the oldest official stadium in Major League Baseball. But nonetheless, I thought it was a cool little idea that they did there. I think if they did this a long time ago and they didn't tear down most of those stadiums that were built, like Comiskey or the I think it was Kansas City Metropolitan or some type of stadium in the Kansas City area. Like it would have been, I think it would have been cooler to commemorate those two, because like obviously old Yankee Stadium was commemorated back in 2008 before they demolished it in 2010 or 2011 when they had the All-Star game at old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. And there will be no Field of Dream. They will not be going to Dyersville, Iowa this year, and this actually took its place. So they will not. So there will be no other game in Iowa this season for a Field of Dreams game. The MLB. This was a Negro League tribute game at Rickwood Field in Birmingham, Alabama.
They're also doing a really good job marketing the major leagues with the tours that they do, where they go to when they go to Europe or London, and
yeah, they did. I think they had done Seoul. They've already done Seoul, Mexico City, and London.
Yep, and in general, they've done Puerto Rico and Mexico too in the past. I think it'd be really cool if they went somewhere that they usually don't go, like Australia, or I mean, they did Australia at one point too in the past, but like it's just an interesting time right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if they. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a Tokyo series, or they had done something Tokyo related, or like maybe gone down into. Well, I wouldn't recommend South America, but I think they've got plenty of other like locations they can go to. And the MLB has done a solid job of a little more of that marketing, because yes, baseball is a very international game. And it's very timely that they're doing a little bit of this, because this also is an Olympic year.
All right, Spinnis, what do you got for the bad?
And the bad, it's just one of the worst ways to lose a baseball game. So here is the situation. And I believe this occurred on Saturday night between the Nationals and Rockies. It is the bottom of the ninth. Bases loaded, 2 out. A full count. It was a full count to the batter. And the pitch clock hit 0. And the umpire, as the pitcher was preparing to release or preparing to go into his windup, calls time because of a pitch clock violation that drew the 4th ball and the game-winning walk as the Rockies beat the Nationals 8-7 on not even a pitch coming in. As I've said, that this is always one of the worst ways to lose a baseball game. I recall about 13 years ago, the worst way that I have seen a baseball game end is that I have seen one at the high school level end on a balk. I've actually seen a baseball game end on a balk. And that is worse than ending it with a walk. But a pitch clock violation is just as anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the Washington Nationals, because even though the pitch clock's at 0, he's still delivering the ball. As the umpire is calling time. It is probably one of the dumbest things I've seen, especially because the umpire reacted to it so late. And I'm like, yeah, it's like as if the referees are also it was just to the point where it was so late It's like an NFL referee trying to throw a flag on a delay of game when the play clock hits 0.
Do you remember watching the movie Rebound with Martin Lawrence?
Of it. I
It
remember
reminds me of
that.
that. It reminds me of that ref that late in the movie where he calls a foul or whatever, but takes him like not takes him light years. It takes him centuries just to make the actual call, and then eventually like the opposing coach gets really pissed off at the ref and was like, "Come on, man, call it already, you slowpoke!" And then he's like, "All right, technical foul here."
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. So
Anyways,
the bad this week is the anticlimactic ending to a Nationals Rockies game due to a pitch count violation. And the ugly is pretty darn ugly.
was it uglier than Edwin Diaz being suspended for 10 games due to a foreign substance that was on his hand?
Well, you could say that the substitute or that the suspension was definitely worse,
You tell.
as the number 2 prospect of the Toronto Blue Jays. He goes and gets his first major league hit in his debut against the Guardians. Only 2. Find out 2 days later. So Friday night, Orelvis Martinez gets his first major league hit. He's been called up to the show, has that moment in his career. He gets suspended after testing positive for the performance-enhancing substance clomiphene. And that suspended him for half the season.
Explain what clomiphene is to the viewers that don't know what the hell you just
Okay.
said.
So,
How do you spell that, by the
clomiphene.
way? Oh, I found it. Okay. So it's used it's used for ovulation, egg production in women.
Yeah.
uh,
But why in the world? It's just like it
was
says
the
it's
man trying to have a
sometimes
kid?
I
Was
don't know.
Was like he
But
like,
it
hey
says it's
baby,
but it says sometimes used to treat male infertility, which is probably more so saying that this is trying to do something as far as elevating his
testosterone.
yes. Which that definitely in the major leagues is not legal. Because
Dummy
that's
of the
equivalent.
week.
Yeah, that is definitely a dummy of the episode because
I mean, it's a good disguise if you were to actually be like, "Hey, man, I've got like low T, my guy. I need to bump up those numbers because I'm trying to have a kid with my girlfriend or wife or whatever." And I told her, "Hey, man, I'm coming up to the bigs," and now she all of a sudden wants a kid. It's like, damn, that was fast. But instead, it's like, oh, I was just using it for
issue.
an actual
Now,
performance enhancing.
Yeah, now what kind of issue would he have with any sort of testosterone related thing when the brother is 22 years old?
Hey, man, I mean, people tell those. Everyone is different in their own way as far as health wise, but yeah, he's 22. Like, you're doing something wrong if you have low T or your body's
He's Dominican.
not helping you
He's
out.
Dominican, so of course, if he's got it from like those under the table type things that you would have out there internationally, okay, that may be one thing. But the problem is that Tatis just got busted for that. Tatis got busted for something similar as well a year ago.
I mean, what's worse, betting on the same sport that you play or getting suspended for 80 games on performance enhancing drug? Wait, no, actually, you don't even get suspended for betting. You literally just get kicked out. Never mind. I answered my own stupid question.
Both of those are bad. Both of those are absolutely terrible ways to go.
All right.
It's just basically it's just basically all of a sudden, like, you know, those videos, it's just like dumb ways to die.
Oh, sponsored by ESPN Bet. Just kidding, not really.
That has absolutely nothing to do with where I was going. As far as careers, this basically just said dumb ways to die.
There's
Dumb
many
ways to
dumb
kill your
ways to die. I love that. I love that game so much, where you have like the
So
little
that's why I
mini
said
games and the cute little
it's just-
characters.
Yeah, that's why I said it's these professional athletes have just they seem to find the dumbest ways to kill their career.
By the way, if you're ever curious on what the actual game we're talking about is, I think it's probably still on the Play Store or App Store somewhere. If you look up Dumb Ways to Die on your mobile phone or tablet or whatever the hell you're using to play those kind of games, Dumb Ways to Die, I believe there's the first and second game, but I don't know if they're
I
still
just
around.
I was thinking of more so the TikTok videos where somebody just is doing something incredibly stupid and dangerous, and there's the music clip there, and that was why I was saying it in the tone of dumb
Yeah.
ways to die. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I understand.
But now we move on to the high heat, where Ruckus will be taking care of the NHL as I will prepare for Euro 2024.
All right. So pretty much Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals, that is. Game 5 was a most pretty much just a battle it out scenario where the Oilers were looking pretty damn good in the beginning until the third period when the Panthers tried to answer back with two goals, and then near the end of the game they tried to keep that momentum up and ended up losing by a 2 goals, making it a 5-3 game, I believe. And then Game 6 was the momentum was all for the Edmonton Oilers as McDavid pretty much just crapped on Tkachuk's postseason career, I guess, so far. Game 3, the Panthers defeated the Oilers 4-3, holding off Edmonton, rallying in the third period. Game 4, Oilers blew out the Panthers 8-1, avoiding the sweep.
Yeah, I think that was basically what it's looking like there is that that first goal that Fogle scored in game 6 with Draisaitl. Oh, it was a thing of beauty that it came on the breakaway. Draisaitl just makes a very excellent pass and it just hit Fogle right there, and then ultimately Edmonton had the exclamation point of putting in 2 empty netters to make it 5-1. But right now it is currently, with 9:20 to go in the third, 2-1 in favor of the Panthers.
Yep, and I hope that the Panthers don't get to chucked by the Oilers.
I would love to see an equalizer by Edmonton. Have game 7 go to overtime. Have it been won by sudden death.
I mean, it'd be kind of ironic if they had like a fight and then they said sudden death, like it's like they literally are giving up their lives just for this game.
ultimately
Holy
it's gold.
crap! Okay, I think I almost spoke too soon. I'm currently having it on a side monitor, and I almost thought I was gonna see a fight live on TV, which would have been awesome. I love fights in sports, even though they're kind of frowned upon in most leagues. But in hockey, they're just like, okay, hold my beer.
Right.
All
So,
right,
so
Euro
far,
2024.
Euro 2024. Teams that have advanced so far: Germany, Switzerland, Spain, and Italy. Italy advancing on a draw with Croatia. You have the, and then Portugal has also punched their ticket in. So what comes about from this is that we are in wrapping up group play in the Euro, and this week we have France versus Poland, the Netherlands versus Austria, Denmark versus Serbia, and England versus Slovenia. And this will take care of groups C and D as far as who will advance there. On Wednesday, we will find out who will advance in groups. I believe it is going to be groups E and F. Yeah, E and F will have their advancement games. And then from there, Euro action will continue at some point soon with the knockout stages. I believe it possibly could be Thursday that they start the knockout stages. So we will find out over the next couple of days who will advance. Will advance in Euro 2024. And this is currently being held in Germany.
Sounds good.
Yep. And now we move on to Omaha. And we are now down to the final two teams who are currently battling it out, and it actually looks like the game has just ended. And this is breaking. But we will recap it from there. Saturday, Texas A&M takes an early lead in the series with a 9-5 victory over Tennessee. Yesterday, Tennessee defeats Texas A&M 4-1 to force Game 3, which was tonight at the time of recording. And Tennessee manages to hang on. Tennessee was up 6-1 in the bottom of the 7th. And in the top of the 8th, the Aggies scored 2 runs. And then they scored 2 more in the top of the 9th. And they had, I believe it was at the time when there was nobody on. And Tennessee struck out the tying run, swinging in the final out. And the Tennessee Volunteers are your national champions and winners of the Men's College World Series. And I actually predicted Tennessee to win. that I actually think I had Tennessee winning it all the way from the Super Region. When they were down to 16, I was like, Tennessee's going to get there.
Yeah.
And it turned out they did. And they ended up winning it. And as we stay with the Sandlot, we now move into color commentary where our divisional updates of the AL and NL Central are our topic.
All right. Do you want me to go first, or do you want me to sort it off?
Well,
all right.
Well, I was gonna feed right into the leaders and bottom feeders, and then we start. But our leaders of the divisions in the AL Central, it is the Cleveland Guardians, and in the NL Central, it is currently the Milwaukee Brewers. The bottom feeders, the Chicago White Sox, significantly. But now, after games have been played tonight, there is a 3-way tie at the bottom. It is now a 3-way tie. But the Cubs are currently playing right now. So that will change. So at the time, the Cubs are still playing. The Cubs, Pirates, and Reds are all tied. Records of 37 and 41. Yeah, the Reds were at the bottom, but then they kind of somehow leaped themselves up with a victory tonight. And the Reds defeated the Pirates. So that kind of shifted everything around just at the last possible second.
All right. So, for our biggest surprise, I will put the shocker that no one else probably thought I was ever going to talk about, but I'm going to say my biggest surprise this season so far is the Royals have lasted more than a month over 500 baseball. A season ago, we didn't really last that long. We lasted maybe April and then crapped our pants and then just went home and threw away the underwear. It was not good. And we also had a lot of injuries that kind of threatened that, but also just not good. But this year, we're kicking ass and taking names, and we are still in the race in the AL Central between the Guardians and Twins as well. What do you have, Spennis?
These races for the division, especially for the wild card spots that are available in both leagues, and the number of contenders is just astronomical. And this is potential to be the most entertaining section of where this could be. You have the Twins and the Royals competing for that right now in the AL Central. But the NL Central, at this point right now, there is not a single team that is out of it. And these teams are going to be in bidding wars. I believe all of these teams will be in bidding wars in the NL Central for players in the trade deadline. The division and some of the wild card spots will be won and lost in the NL Central at the trade deadline. You heard it here first. Because every single one of those teams in the NL Central could go ahead and buy at the deadline. Just because of how competitive it is. And the reason why I say this is a big surprise is because normally in the NL Central, you see competition, but you see a little bit of separation that somehow kind of wedges itself in. Not so much here. As it is far and away the most entertaining division in baseball in terms of competitiveness.
All right. My biggest disappointment this so far this season for the Central is the Chicago White Sox. They need to wash their socks with Tide Pods and a Tide ad. I'm gonna add another thing. I personally don't really wear white socks. I wear black socks for the most part because they're comfy and they don't look as bad whenever they get dirty. All right, on to you, Spedis.
I thought the Cubs would have been a little more dominant. I thought the Cubs would have been a better, performing a little better. And that for me is why I have the disappointment there. There's almost absolutely nothing disappointing especially in the NL Central. But I just think that the Cubs could have been a little more dominant. That's just where I'm at. MVPs.
No surprise here for me. I have Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals as the MVP for the AL Central.
And I have Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians. It almost also went to Josh Naylor, but I think Jose Ramirez has been the more complete hitter. And then the NL, I have Mason Wynn of the St. Louis Cardinals.
I have Ellie De La Cruz for my NL vote for the Cincinnati Reds as well, just because of the straight up speed this guy has and just how impressive he has been through almost a full season with them being out there. Because last year he started near the middle end of the season I believe July, late July and early August. But anyways, here is our Cy Young candidates. Mine is Cole Reagans of the Kansas City Royals. And then for my NL, I have Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
For the NL, I have, again, a St. Louis Cardinal. Sonny Gray is who I chose for my Cy Young. And then for the AL Cy Young, his MLB The Show live series card has skyrocketed to a 90 overall. And that is Tarek Skubal of the Tigers. He has been probably the one pitcher that has kept the Tigers in it, or at least in some sort of hunt this season. And I just can't deny that Tarek Skubal has been a very good pitcher for the Tigers this year. And now we go to our stud and dud of the week.
Yes, sir.
Ruckus, take it away.
All right, so my stud of this week. Notice how we didn't really talk about the Boston Celtics winning the finals, because last episode we talked about it near the end.
Well, it was actually breaking news right around the time of last week.
But for people that didn't watch last week's episode, that's pretty much the recap of that. Anyways, the stud for this week for me is these three players: Al Horford, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown for winning their first NBA Finals with the Celtics. Congratulations to those three, especially Al Horford for waiting as long as he had to deal with. Because that man looked to be on his last limb, or it seems like it because he's just an older player. But he stuck to it, and congratulations to him and his teammates, Tatum and Brown. My dud of the week is Isaiah Buggs. He finally bugged the Chiefs enough to the point where he was released from the Chiefs amid the issues off the field with the multiple arrests that he had.
I figured that was going to be coming sooner rather than later, as soon as we went into the ugly on him.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon McManus had the same type of thing go on with his time in Jacksonville. And the Commanders just said, nope, bye-bye. But my stud this week goes to a PGA Tour golfer named Cameron Young, who shot a 59 during the Travelers Championship to have the first sub 60 round of golf on the tour in nearly 4 years. Although there also were 6 protesters in the Travelers Championship that got detained as well. This moment here does not overshadow that. And
Why
even though
did
that
they get detained?
I don't know what the protest was about.
Was it about
But they
Sky
were
Scheffler?
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure. Those protesters stormed the 18th green. They tackled protesters, and they basically wore T-shirts that read "No golf on a dead planet."
Oh. I don't know what that has to do with
It looks like they were talking about climate change.
Oh.
They were climate change activists that basically were there pretty much and were detained and arrested and tackled. Talking no with shirts that said "No golf on a dead planet," and there were 6 of them. But apparently, bypassing security also comes in 6s. Because at Euro 2024, my dud goes to some of the security in Germany, as it was not quite ramped up enough during a Portugal match, as it was delayed twice, where eventually by the time near the end of the match and also post-match, 6 different people entered the field of play to try and get their selfie with Cristiano Ronaldo. It's like as if you see people like do that all the time, say like trying to get a selfie with Messi and all that. Not while they're still playing the game.
Yeah,
They're doing this they're doing this in the middle of a game. The guy is trying to do his job. I don't care if he's the best player in the world. He isn't. Or at least he's one of them, but best player in the world right now is currently an Argentine, not Portuguese. But it doesn't matter who it is. If you want to try and get your selfie, just try and get it at like an appropriate time.
Like Exhibit A, whenever I went to the Overland Park Mall and saw Ned Yost. I was like, oh, that's probably Ned Yost. I should go and talk to him. And then I introduced myself. Not during a game when they're playing. I mean, unless you're like really asking for it and you're advertising like some type of site that you shouldn't go on without your parents' permission.
The guys or all of a sudden be like, what's funny is that you see so many people like interrupt sporting events all the time with these stupid shenanigans. It's like these people are just like, what is it with the desperation to try and get a selfie with Cristiano Ronaldo when if the field ends up opening and you have an opportunity to be able to do it in proper clearance, and their permission, you may be able to do it.
I don't know, man. Some kids just want to be key, man. Pretty key.
Take us out.
And that's where I trigger Spanish. Anyways, this has been the
No, not so much. Not so much the triggering part there. It was just we've beaten the dead horse enough. Just wrap it up.
All right, back off to the glue factory with you. Anyways, this has been the Ruckus and the Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always calls him a Ruckus.
And I'm Spence the Menace.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, the awesome podcast that we do for sports every week or so. This is Ruckus and the Menace, episode number 103. We'll see y'all later.
Deuces.